Season 4. This episode is entitled Know Your Season Before You Choose Your Seed. Not every seed needs to be planted, and not every opportunity deserves our attention right now. And not every goal belongs in every season. And wisdom isn't simply choosing good seeds. Wisdom is understanding your season before deciding what to plant. Have you ever felt pulled in multiple directions at the same time? A new opportunity, a new project, a new goal, a new business idea, a new relationship, a new direction. And if you are a creative person, the ideas sometimes just keep coming as a creative person. And it's not because we're lacking options, but because we've been blessed with creative possibilities. And as high performers, our challenge is rarely a lack of seeds and a lack of creativity and a lack of ideas. Often, our challenge is deciding which seed deserves our attention because every seed requires something different. It requires time, it requires energy, it requires resources. It can require money. It can require patience, discipline, commitment, dedication. And while it may be tempting to plant everything at once, experienced gardeners understand something really important. Not every seed needs to be planted, and not every season is a planting season. Some seasons are for planting. Some seasons are for nurturing, and some seasons are for pruning, and some seasons they're for harvesting. And wisdom is knowing the difference. Because many of us become exhausted, not because we're doing the wrong things, but because we're trying to do everything at the same exact time. And this made me contemplate and wonder, am I trying to plant new seeds when I should be nurturing what's already growing? Am I trying to harvest something that still needs time? Am I trying to do work that belongs to a different season? So, as we continue walking the garden, today we are exploring a question every gardener eventually learns to ask. Do I know my season before I choose my seed? Hey y'all, I am Madison Samone Chase, also known as Miss Chase. I was raised in church and my great grandmother played the piano and I sang in the choir. And my faith journey has always been at the center of who I am. And I am incredibly thankful to have been raised by a high performing, hardworking, sacrificial, single mother who remains my biggest fan and my forever best friend, my BFF. And honoring God through service and making my mama proud and using the gifts he gave me has always been deeply important to me. And over the past several seasons of Cut to the Chase at 8, now C2TC8 Her Circle, which stands for High Performing Empowered Women Ready to Thrive, we've talked about awareness, detox, discernment, boundaries, and the No More Nice series really delving into the difference between being nice and being kind, rebuilding and becoming. But as I entered this next season, season 4, I found myself thinking less about what needed to be removed and more about what needed to be cultivated. Because before a gardener plants for the next season, the gardener walks the garden. The gardener takes inventory. The gardener notices what is flourishing and what isn't. The gardener notices what plants are struggling. The gardener notices what produced fruit. The gardener notices what never took root. And then the gardener notices what needs pruning. And most importantly, the gardener notices what has completed its purpose. And that is what season 4 is all about for me. Walking the garden and taking an honest look at the people, the places, and things in our lives, not with judgment and not with shame or condemnation, but with wisdom. Because every person, every place, and everything produces fruit, and that fruit, when we get to the root, can teach us a lesson. And before we ask for a bigger harvest, we may need to take a closer look at the roots. So, whether you're a high performing mother, caretaker, entrepreneur, single father, aspiring entrepreneur, working a 9 to 5, juggling 2 or 3 jobs, quietly rebuilding, or simply trying to grow through life one season at a time, this space and this circle is for you. So if you're listening and or watching, pull up a real chair or a digital chair and grab yourself a cup of hot or cold herbal tea. And welcome to my cozy home of Cut to the Chase at 8, now C2TC8 Her Circle, which stands for High Performing Empowered Women Who Are Ready to Thrive. A 15-minute micro learning moment for macro living transformations. And I am truly overjoyed that you are here. So let's start this episode by taking one breath together. We're going to inhale for 3, 2, 1. Exhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Many of us spend time asking, what should I do next? What's my next opportunity? What's my next goal? What's my next move? Where or what is my next seed? But gardeners ask a different question first. They ask, what season am I in? Because before a gardener chooses a seed, the gardener evaluates the season. Planting seasons, they have different responsibilities. Nurturing seasons, they have responsibilities, different responsibilities. Pruning seasons, those are different responsibilities. Harvest season, completely different. And frustration often comes when we expect one season to produce what belongs to another. Sometimes we're trying to harvest what still needs nurturing. Sometimes we're trying to plant something new while neglecting what's already growing. Sometimes we're trying to do everything at once. And that's often where our exhaustion begins and sets in. Which brings me to the PPT audit. People, places, and things. Let's start with people. Who helps you recognize the season that you're in? And then who respects the timing of that season? It's one thing to recognize what season you're in, but it's another thing for people to not judge that season and think that your season of planting should be your season of harvesting, and your season of harvesting should be your season of planting. And then who encourages healthy growth? Who pressures you to move faster than wisdom allows? And then who puts their planting season onto your planting season and assumes that it should be yours too? Places. What environments support the season that you're currently experiencing? And then where do you feel aligned? Where do you feel rushed? And where do you feel grounded? Things. What am I trying to force? What am I trying to hurry? And then what may need more nurturing? What may need more pruning? And what may already be ready to harvest? Which brings me to the SAC challenge, the spontaneous, authentically assertive communication. This week's SAC challenge is about honoring your season. And maybe that sounds like I am focusing on what's already growing. I'm focusing on what needs to be pruned. I'm focusing on what needs to be planted. And this isn't the season for that. I'm giving my attention to what matters most right now. I'm choosing not to overcommit. I'm trusting the timing of this season. Or perhaps not every seed needs to be planted. Because wisdom isn't just knowing what to do, wisdom is knowing what deserves your attention right now. Which brings me to the three keys. Key number one, not every seed needs to be planted. And every opportunity is not an assignment, and every opportunity may not be aligned with your purpose. Which brings me to key number two. Every season has different responsibilities: planting, nurturing, pruning, and finding the seed and letting the seed sprout and harvesting require different actions. Key number three. Discernment helps us know where to focus our energy. And discernment is something that we often don't give ourselves credit for. Discernment can be the thing that you know that you sometimes push past what your heart is telling you to do, what your spirit is telling you to do. And discernment can take some practice. And I think sometimes discernment requires us to sit still and listen. And so growth requires stewardship, and that stewardship requires discipline. Our one reflection question: what season am I currently in? And am I making preparations for that season? Am I in a planting season? Am I in a nurturing season? Am I in a nurturing season or a pruning season? Or am I in a harvest season? And then how does that season show up in my health, my career, my Give Me 15 journey, my relationships, my romantic relationships, my friendships, my work relationships, my finances, my parenting, my caregiving responsibilities, my business or entrepreneurial goals? Because different areas of our lives can be in different seasons at the same time. So today we explored a lesson every gardener eventually learns. Not every seed needs to be planted. Not every opportunity deserves our attention right now. And not every season requires the same level of work. Sometimes the wisest thing we could do is stop asking, what should I do next? And start asking, what season am I in? Because when we understand the season, we make better decisions about the seeds. We make better decisions about how we cultivate the seed and how we care for the seed and the soil for the seed and the container for the seed. So before we go, let's revisit our three keys. Key number one, not every seed needs to be planted, and every opportunity is not an assignment or aligned with our purpose. Key number two, every season has different responsibilities. Planting, nurturing, pruning, and harvesting require different actions and different tools. Key number three, discernment helps us know where to focus our energy, and our growth requires stewardship. Our one reflection question: what season am I currently in, and am I preparing for it accordingly? And so growth often looks like nothing before it looks like something. And that's where many of us become discouraged. Not because the seed isn't growing, and not because the process isn't working, but because we expect proof before the process has had time to produce it. A gardener doesn't plant a seed and then spend every day digging it up to see if it's working. The gardener plants, waters, tends, and trusts. And so, as we move through this week, consider the areas of our lives where we've been demanding immediate evidence for the goal, the business, the healing, the relationship, the opportunity, the habit, you're building, and then ask yourself, am I nurturing the seed or am I disrupting the process? So remember, some of the most important growth happens underground. So continue giving yourself grace in this space. Let's take a closing breath together. We're going to inhale for 3, 2, 1. Exhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If this episode pricked your heart or lit a spark, please subscribe and share this podcast with someone you care about. And leave a review or a comment so that this becomes a dialogue and not a monologue, so that we can continue to grow and help others. Until the next time, I am Madison Samone Chase, and this has been another episode of Cut to the Chase at 8, a 15-minute micro-learning moment for macro living transformations. Blessings to you and yours until tomorrow. And remember, roots don't ask for applause while they're growing.